This is the Success Culture Podcast, and I am your host, Coach Tom Lazoric of Success Fitness and Training in Maplewood, Minnesota. We are a private gym on a mission to normalize health and fitness, and we have Success's own Hunter Kowalski here with us today, and we're going to be talking about functional health medicine, functional nutrition. But I want to start off by Hunter just competed not too long ago, and he got first in the tall class at the Mr. and Mrs. Minnesota Natural Bodybuilding Show. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything?
And I'll say too that interestingly enough, a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about and a lot of the functional health coaching knowledge and education that that I use on myself and on my clients is actually it has a big piece in me achieving the physique that I've achieved. And I actually, when I first kind of dealt with some of these health issues post contest, and the reason why I'm even going to school for functional medicine in the first place was related to bodybuilding, because bodybuilding is not necessarily the healthiest sport. So we kind of understand that when we're going through contest prep, there is a lot of things that I do that seemingly help to have made this contest prep easier and more beneficial than in the past preps. And for example, just this is not totally related to functional health, but it has a piece. My calories have never once dropped under 2,000. They've gotten very close to being under that, but that's pretty good for getting to a very, very lean condition. It's definitely the leanest I've ever been. And the physique, the ability to hang on to muscle and hang on to hormones and all that kind of stuff has been attributed to functional health. And then if I didn't discover some of the functional health and natural medicine practices many, many years ago, I never would have been able to continue down the path of even being able to do natural bodybuilding at all. So it's kind of cool that it does tie in. And I think that physique enhancement and the realm of physique enhancement or physique sport is actually they're really missing out on this more functional nutrition piece for balancing hormones and all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
Absolutely. So maybe, this podcast takes off, enough people start hearing about it. Maybe it'll become more of a normal thing. And for those,
yes, sir.
For those of you also, before we get into the questions, for those of you watching the video, you might notice I'm sweating. It's because it's very humid in this gym right now, so apologies for that. Let's start off by kind of explaining what functional nutrition coaching is and how it differs from more of your traditional nutrition coaching.
Yes. So functional health or functional nutrition coaching is going to be more focused on addressing the root causes of health issues through essentially personalized nutrition plans while maintaining traditional nutrition coaching methods, if you would. So they're more customized to each individual. Whereas if you look at general nutrition coaching, it might be like, hey, here's your macros, or I want you to hit this many calories, right? Functional nutrition coaching is going to go in a little bit more in depth, depending on the intake forms that we see, the health history, the amount of dieting that's been done, if somebody's pre or post contest, so on and so forth. And also we have at our disposal a different, several subsets of different labs that can be ran, blood work, saliva, urine based, and those even hair tissue mineral analysis. So it's testing hair to look at minerals. And based on those tests, we can kind of customize the nutrition plan based upon your numbers, as opposed to, hey, here's your macros. This works for a lot of people. That's going to be more so generalized nutrition coaching, which is great. And a lot of people, that's all that they need, right? They just need a plan, and they need to adhere to that plan for maybe 75% of people, even higher amount. That might be all that they need. But for a subset or people that want to kind of be their absolute best, hey, I don't want to just be kind of healthy, I want to be super, super healthy, or whatever the case might be, then that's where we can kind of take it a step further with this functional health or functional nutrition coaching.
Okay, so yeah, just way less general, a bit more involved. And so
Yes.
what inspired you then to pursue a career in this specifically?
Yeah. So I was really inspired, and a lot of the stuff that I do is based upon experiences or events that have happened to myself, right? I'm kind of like an end of one study, if you would, and everything that's happened to myself has um basically led me to be like, hey, I don't want other people to go through that, or I want to be able to help people with that, or hey, I need to help myself with that, right? So yeah, I was essentially just inspired by seeing the profound impact that a personalized nutrition plan and functional health methods could, kind of how much change there could be. Because like I kind of mentioned, I dealt with a bunch of health issues after my first season of competing in like 2016 or late 2015. It had, I actually ran into like a bunch of health issues and I wasn't able to figure it out with traditional Western medicine. And it wasn't until I found a kind of a natural Chinese acupuncturist or doctor that actually helped me with supplementation, changing my diet, acupuncture, all that kind of stuff. And I was better very, very quickly. And it's kind of led down like, oh, well, I have this little issue when, with eating, maybe I could try to figure that out. And therefore I was able to, and so on and so forth. And then I've seen so much improvement now with several clients, gut health improvements, hormone improvements, and how much better people feel. So that's kind of what inspired me to go more and more into the functional health side and, actually going to school for functional medicine and so on and so forth. So yeah.
Dude, so yeah, in my opinion, I think those that have like dealt with some sort of issue or setback that kind of led them to their passion, I sometimes think those people are going to be the best at the craft, if that makes sense. So I love that you
Yeah.
have like a very specific experience that led you to wanting to pursue this as your career. So beautiful, love it. So then, with all that in mind, how do you approach working with clients to develop like a personalized nutrition plan, based
Yeah.
on
So,
needs? Yeah.
yep. So essentially, if somebody is doing the functional health coaching program, and you can look on our website to kind of see the differentiations between nutrition, coaching, and or functional health. But a lot of times, if somebody's doing functional health, they are going to be running some sort of a lab test initially. And then we'll basically be starting by trying to understand each client's unique health history, their goals, their preferences, and then we basically tailored the nutrition plan accordingly. And eventually, a lot of times with functional health, we are going to be working on supplementation. We're going to be working on lifestyle changes. If somebody's sleeping 3 hours a night, but they're trying to like reset their circadian rhythm, like that's not really going to work, and so on and so forth. So it's basically that, and the unique health history of each individual and dieting history. Like one of my favorite questions to ask, I just asked a prospect, or actually, it's a new client. I just asked this yesterday. It's like, okay, so in the last 10 years, how many of those years do you remember trying to consciously diet? Right.
Mhm.
And luckily, yesterday, the individual was like, oh, I haven't really tried at all. I was like, oh, sweet. This is going to be awesome because it's easy to help you diet now, as opposed to if you have somebody that has like, say, 20 pounds to lose, and they're like, well, probably like 80% of the last, 10 years has been spent consciously trying to diet. It's like,
Right.
oh, shoot, you're going to be kind of messed up. You're probably going to have to, either eat like 900 calories to lose weight, or we're going to have to, kind of quote unquote fix the metabolic system a little bit and get you to be able to eat at least a decent amount of food and still, lose some of that body fat. So,
Absolutely, dude. Okay, so what role exactly do lifestyle and behavior change play in this functional nutrition coaching?
yeah, it's very critical. So for functional nutrition coaching, it's very important for sustainable long-term health improvements because I guess this is not necessarily, I wanted to say sadly, but this is not necessarily sadly. But like whatever we do, whether it's a supplement, whether it's some kind of a food, maybe it's an exercise program, it's never going to be quite as powerful as, some of the different medications that are out there, right? So I guess one big example is like we have different natural herbs or supplements that could be used to help lower blood sugar and reduce insulin in individuals that might have like type 2 diabetes, right?
Yeah.
I do 1000% believe that pretty much anybody that has type 2 diabetes, as long as it's not the type 1 where you're not producing insulin, you can reverse it naturally. But you're going to have to make a ton of lifestyle changes essentially or potentially for the rest of your life, as opposed to maybe you go on metformin or another type of medication that, is designed to help with diabetes, then that might be all that you need to do. And you can kind of eat regularly. You can keep eating in the pattern or keep those habits that got you to, being a diabetic. And now you can keep those up and basically live healthy for the rest of your life. Whereas with functional health, you're going to have to make some dietary patterns, changes, lifestyle changes. All of these changes are going to be beneficial for not only the one area that you're trying to fix which is in this case, diabetes. It's also going to basically improve general health and well-being as well. So that's one thing that's kind of beneficial as opposed to taking a medication that's not really going to, most likely it's going to have some kind of other downsides, and then maybe you have to get on more medications to counteract those downsides, right? So even with medication, there's still like, well, shoot, now I have to take these on a daily basis. So there is no like, but there is no magic pill, right?
Sure.
So yeah, if that kind of makes sense.
Well, I think so. I think so. So, are there any like success stories you could share, or maybe even like case studies where
Yeah. So I'd have to get approval for this, but if I was going to share a photo, it'd be amazing to share. I had a client that actually turned pro in natural bodybuilding, but they had dealt with SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And basically, like, I don't know, 10 to 12 weeks before their competition, it looked like they were like about to pop a baby out, right? The gut was so bloated, and we had to essentially, we had to test to see what was going on. So we got a stool test, got a breath test to see what was going on with the gut, and then we ran a protocol, and essentially on stage or on show day, and it was improved before show day, obviously, but like we had that stomach as flat as could be, issues were improved and all that kind of stuff. So that's a big I guess gut related issue, which again, in order to achieve your best physique, you can't have these kind of health issues that might be causing bloating or distension or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
Another one would be, and I've had a couple of male clients, but our ability to naturally raise testosterone levels, like in myself, in 2016, 2017, I think I had the testosterone of like 97. It was under 100, and over the span of like, I think it was about 4 years, there was a lot of things that went into it. It would literally be a whole podcast in of itself of what I did, but I was able to get up to like 987 and 987, and it fluctuates up and down. Like being stage lean right now, I'm probably not all that high, but I know what to do to kind of get it back up after stage. So hormonally being able to get things back up, that's a big one. Yeah, so those would be the two big ones, but I've also, lots of different like digestive issue help. I've helped people that would basically be told they have Hashimoto's or definitely have Hashimoto's and like need medication that refuse to go on medication. We've been able to get them down to levels that wouldn't necessarily classify them as having Hashimoto's. We've helped people with like hormonal PCOS, all kinds of different stuff like that. So yeah.
That's powerful stuff, man. Very powerful.
It totally is. Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
So then I'd imagine there are plenty of misconceptions about functional nutrition coaching. So what are some of those, and how would you address the misconceptions?
Probably the thought process that, like, if you start with a coach that's more of the natural health side, that they're gonna put you on like a one size fits all approach that's maybe just all about dietary supplements. That's probably the biggest thing, because really, like, what it is addressing the personalized issues that each individual has. And we're trying to basically take a holistic approach to it. So we're trying to, like I mentioned earlier, we're trying to look at dieting history. We're trying to look at the labs to see what's actually going on. I guess you could say chemically within the body and different things like that. So a big misconception is that there's just one kind of one size fits all approach for
Yeah.
each client that we see, but really it's like, sometimes even it even makes it hard to talk to clients about it before they actually sign up for coaching, because it's like, well, we're probably going to do this, but we might do this. It's going to depend on, once we do more intake, it's going to depend on what we see in the labs. I can't really guarantee how long it's going to take. I can't guarantee, how well your body's going to respond and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. And then another, I think, misconception is like that, a lot of people kind of think like, oh, am I going to have to like cut out carbohydrates or cut out, I don't know, cut out like some food group, or not eat, can I only eat organic foods, or so on and so forth. So it's like, no, a lot of times we don't have to make as extreme of dietary adjustments as you might think, but also depending on the issue, it might be more extreme of dietary restraints than, you might come in thinking. So for a short period of time.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay. That all makes sense. So what would you do, I guess, to stay updated with all the information that goes into this practice?
Yeah, so as a student, I'm able to attend a lot of different natural health seminars or conferences that are geared towards functional medicine, chiropractors, even doctors. So that's a big one, being able to kind of stay up on the research through other people, as well as just constantly reading different books, taking different certifications. I am actually in college, so I do, utilize the education that I gain from that. Mentorship in the past has been something that's been really big. So if I see a coach that's doing something that I want to do, then I ask that coach and see if they have a mentor ability, or maybe they have courses on helping people with this issue or helping people with this issue, so on and so forth. And mentorship's a big one. Um, you know, Online education, like different certifications that I've taken. Obviously, college has been a big help as well, so I incorporate that. The biggest thing that is just irreplaceable, I think, is like hands-on or like real world application. So every time that I come across a new client with an issue, if it's like, the first time I helped somebody that wanted to do nutrition coaching, but they also had Hashimoto's and they were interested in trying to lower that naturally, I was like, well, I've never really helped anyone with this before, but I can do what I can, to the best of my ability. And that was several years ago, and I was able to help that person just through education, took a course on that. And then now it's like, okay, let's figure out what worked, what didn't work, and then we can implement that with the next client. Again, what worked, what didn't work, and then kind of come to a consensus of like, oh, these practices tend to work really good for Hashimoto's, so let's use that and let's keep using that. But also, like, always kind of keeping an open, like, you never know too much, and you can always change what you know currently. I think that's a big thing too. If it's like, wow, this ashwagandha is like the most amazing thing ever, but then you kind of like start using it for a while, and then you find out like, oh, actually, you know what, maybe it's like not really the ashwagandha, and it's just the fact that like people that take ashwagandha have a placebo effect, or maybe they're going to bed earlier, so on and so forth. So I'm never scared to also like get rid of things that I maybe learned. And also, like, when I go to a conference, it might be like, yeah, they mentioned these 10 things, but I really want to look into each thing a little bit more. And then after I do so, I might only agree with 3 of them.
So then,
Yep.
are there any particular dietary philosophies or approaches that you would incorporate into your practice for functional health nutrition?
Yeah, so I would say I incorporate a variety of dietary philosophies and or approaches. But I focus on whole foods. I guess you could say, like, if you look at whole foods, a lot of times that would just be, say, instead of doing like a Pop Tart, that's going to be a bunch of different, ingredients mixed together, processed, packaged, so on and so forth. We're going to be looking at like potatoes, some kind of a good grass-fed red meat, vegetables, and then some kind of a fat source, right? As
Yeah.
an example. Um, and then I would say I lean towards a Mediterranean based diet, if you would. So a lot of times I'm trying to get my clients to have their plates starting to look more like, like vegetables is going to be the main thing that you'll see on a lot of your meals. We're going to do a lot of fruits. We're going to get in a decent amount of meats as long as the individual is not vegan. I've worked with vegans or vegetarians in the past as well. I'm not afraid of using different supplements like protein powders and things like that, especially, as long as they are like stevia sweetened. We have a vegan protein powder that's great. And as long as they're clean, those are great. But yeah, the Mediterranean generally is really great. And then at the end of the day, I think one thing that's really missed for a lot of practitioners in the functional realm is they lack the understanding of like calories in and calories out matter, as well as macros. So how much protein, how much fats, how much carbs for not only health, but also physique change. Because I never, 90% of the time, most people, no matter what health issue they have, they still want to look better at the end of the day. And if you just throw out the fact that energy balance is a real thing, and you're like, oh yeah, all you got to do is eat healthy. Well, there's some people out there that can eat chicken and broccoli, and maybe they add a little bit of olive oil, and they can get fat from eating too much chicken and broccoli. Like I would be able to do that myself. I would eat 10 times a day. I would eat like 30 heads of broccoli and like 6 pounds of chicken if I was just like told, oh, go ahead and eat as much as you want.
Yeah.
And eventually I'd probably get fat from that. It'd be hard, but I could do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a big thing. If it fits your macros is still a thing, even though I'm not a huge fan of the culture that's been created around if it fits your macros, where like commonly in the past it was kind of like, oh, we can fit in all these fun foods now, right? It should be more like, well, let's use if it fits your macros to try to fit in as many nutrient dense foods as possible while still following our daily allowance of what we can eat for protein, carbs, and fats, right?
Yeah.
And that ultimately does too give you the most amount of freedom as opposed to a meal plan or anything like that. If it fits your macros while following a structure of like, hey, these are foods that you should be eating the most. I also, outside of like kind of more extreme cases, I try to exclude foods as little as possible. So like let's not try to exclude things. Because there's a lot of people that are like, well, I can't really eat fruit because it has sugar. And I'm like, well, that's not really true because there is constituents within the fruit that are fibers and phytonutrients and all these kind of things that help our body to handle those sugars, as opposed to like just gulping down white sugar, which again, even gulping down white sugar in a healthy individual is not going to kill you
Yeah.
per se. It depends on the status of your gut and different things like that. So yeah, I don't remember the question, but hopefully that
Well,
answered it.
that was fantastic. That was fantastic. I especially love the bit about just eating healthy food, because I, in my younger days, thought, well, was kind of led in the direction of, just eat healthy. And then, like you
Yeah.
kind of said, you can easily overeat healthy foods,
Yeah.
so calories still matter. It's the quality of food, of course, matters, but you got to consider all the different variables. So,
Well, and then like you hear a lot of people like a lot in the bodybuilding realm, you're like, there's a lot of bodybuilders that literally just eat like chicken and rice, but
yeah,
then they'll demonize white bread, for example. And I'm like, I kind of get it, but I'm like, do you know that like white rice is literally like pretty much void of micronutrients? Like it's just straight carbohydrates.
Yeah.
And it's also like very high glycemic because people will talk about like how sugar is bad because it's high glycemic. I'm like, rice is high glycemic. And then at the end of the day, whether you eat sugar or potato or oatmeal, it's all going to be basically converted into sugar or glucose in the body eventually.
Yeah.
Although, with like oatmeal, you're going to have more fiber, you're going to have more, micronutrients and different things like that. It's going to be more satiating. So there's a lot to the foods, but it's kind of funny how certain individuals will like demonize something like white bread, but then they eat white rice like 6 times a day. Like,
Yeah.
something's off here. Like maybe you should do, you
Yeah,
know,
that sort of thing happens all the time, all the time.
totally. Yep.
And so we live in a day and age where it seems like there's more and more like food sensitivities and allergies, intolerances, those kind of things. So how do you support those clients who are navigating those sort of issues?
Yeah. So basically, you're going to integrate stress management techniques with these individuals. And also we can test for it, but there are a lot of common, I guess you could say, sensitivities that people have. So some individuals might have issues with gluten. Some individuals might have issues with dairy. Some individuals might not be able to do FODMAPs, which is a certain indigestible fiber that's in certain vegetables like broccoli. So we can kind of do some, I call it detective work, and we can basically do either testing or we can do elimination diets to see. And then another big consideration is these foods are not inherently bad. There might be a underlying issue. And as I mentioned initially, functional health coaching, we look at the underlying root causes. There might be an issue going on in the gut that's causing these foods to cause you issues. And if we can address those with a elimination diet and a protocol, then these foods will therefore become tolerable for those individuals. So again, very personalized, but if somebody has a gluten intolerance or gluten sensitivity, it doesn't always mean, like outside of celiac disease, then you probably won't ever be able to have gluten. But outside of celiac, it doesn't mean that you can't eat gluten for the rest of your life. It's like, well, let's get the environment set so that you can enjoy some gluten, and we'll
Yeah.
see if you can tolerate it over time. So,
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. So, what are some practical tips, strategies that you would often recommend to clients to improve their overall health through nutrition?
got it. So, firstly, I would say let's go back to calorie balance or calorie in, calories out, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's general nutrition coaching or functional health coaching, one of the best things that a client can do initially is start learning how much they're actually intaking, right? Get a baseline. So like I love setting people up on either just journaling with pen and paper, or like we use Chronometer or Chronometer, however you want to say that. It's an app that we use, that we have an enterprise account, and on the back end of it, as a coach, I can actually set up basically like I can hide the calories. So therefore, individuals will enter in, say, chicken breast. They'll just see chicken breast. I will see how many calories, like protein, carbs, and fats, that chicken breast has. You get them to do that for like a week, and then you can teach that individual, hey, you've been eating 30 grams of protein, 300 grams of carbohydrates, and like, I don't know, 200 grams of fat a day. That's probably not the best for body composition or like long-term health. So why don't we start to push your protein up a little bit and actually get things, balanced out. So kind of learning the energy balance component, and also like what macronutrients certain foods will have, because some people don't necessarily understand that, you know, peanut butter is going to be more so a fat source than it is a protein source,
Yeah.
right?
Good one.
Not
Yeah.
not to say that it's completely voided of protein, but it only has probably about 5 grams of protein per 16 grams of fat. So if you look at the calorie conversion, there's so many more calories coming from fat than there is protein.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Absolutely.
and then after that, just kind of starting to, again, if you just prioritize whole foods or look up like what Mediterranean diet practices are and start to incorporate some of those, as well as if you are the type of person that eats out a lot, if you just cut half of those meals out and start eating those at home, you're gonna, see improvements in the direction of improved health for sure.
Okay. Yeah, dude. So then, what advice might you give to somebody who's interested in pursuing a career in this functional nutrition coaching realm?
Make sure you have a passion for it
Yeah.
if you wanna do it for a career, or if you want to essentially be a client, or if you want to incorporate some of these lifestyle changes yourself on your own. I would say education is going to be huge. You need to be willing and able to educate yourself, but also you need to be willing and able to disregard a lot of the things that you might hear or the things that you might learn, right?
Yeah.
We're marketed to very heavily by pharmaceutical companies that, this drug will help, or the RDA talking about 0.8 grams of protein, or, that we have to stay under, I think it's like 2,800 grams of sodium, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of things out there that maybe don't really make all that much sense. I mean, if we as the US population really have the worst health, which it seems like we are trending down that way, like obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure,
Yeah.
our kids are getting heavier, so
Yeah.
on and so forth.
Not good.
It's not great. The standard American diet, which I call the sad diet, standard American diet,
Yep.
is not really helping us. So, if you always just take what you learn or what you can see on face value and be like, well, yeah, I'm supposed to eat 3 meals and it's normal for me to eat out a couple times a day. Everyone does that. Maybe you don't want to be like everybody because everyone else is not healthy or they don't look that great. It's sometimes it's kind of nice, and this is maybe a little bit ego driven, I guess you could say, but if you're ever like at a event where there's food and you're the only one that brought your own food, it's kind of nice to be able to like look around and be like, I'm the only one that I actually took the effort to bring my own food. They're all eating pizza, but I can tell you one thing, also the only one here. There's outliers, but I'm also the only one here that could take my shirt off and have a six-pack abs,
Yeah.
muscular, so on and so forth. Like I'm the best looking person in this room as well, as far as like physique wise, face, appearance, different story, but so on and so forth there. So
But yeah, dude, it is pretty mind blowing. Like when you put it in that perspective, like
yes,
generally speaking, even like someone like you go into any given place and you're probably going to be the healthiest, most fit person there.
yeah,
So we have maybe time for one more question. You got about a minute and
yeah.
50 before Zoom kicks us out. So what are some of the upcoming trends or developments in the field that are getting you in particular excited?
Enteric nervous system, or the gut brain connection. So the way that our brain communicates to our gut, and our gut also therefore communicates to our brain, and looking at the implications for mental health or neurological conditions and the prevention of those, because we don't have great prevention mechanisms or practices right now for things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, so on and so forth. But I do believe that there's a connection between the gut, the brain, and all that kind of stuff. We can see this in youth, especially, even like, you see certain kids that eat too high of sugar, they'll kind of have more ADHD issues or anxiety issues and so on and so forth. So a lot of research that needs to be done in that area, as well as like microbiome. But that's like what's most interesting to me, because I do believe that there's a lot that could be improved there. So
Absolutely, man. The gut is very, very powerful place. And yeah, unfortunately, that's all the time we have. I'm sure we could talk forever about this topic, and Hunter is a wealth of knowledge and wisdom. So thank you so much, Hunter. Really appreciate you, man. And have a
Thank you.
good day, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Normalize health.
Normalize health. Let's grow. Again, this was the Success Culture Podcast. You can find us at our website, www.successfitnessandtraining.com. And if you'd like to reach out to us for whatever reason, whether you have a question, a topic request, or even if you're interested in coming on the podcast, you can reach out info@successfitnessmn.com. And we're also on YouTube, of course, so you can look out for this podcast in video form on YouTube. And unless you're already watching that, then in which case, hello. But that is Tom Lazoric, my name, Success Fitness. And we're, of course, on all of the other socials as well. So, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, unfortunately. So Success Fitness and Training, MN. Look for us on all the socials. And I'm wishing you health and happiness. Thank you so much for watching, listening, whatever the case may be. Let's grow. See you next time.